Hey, welcome to the Sounds on Vinyl show. My name, as always, is the same. I haven't changed it, and if you don't know it by now, I'm not going to tell you. With me, as always, is legendary singer, Viking, Professor Rockstar, Mike Svensson, and this season, we have another special co-host with us. It's Mr. Soren. Soren, he is an expert in all things vinyl. He's such an expert. He knows so much. He's got a book to prove it.
Oh yeah,
he's got a book to prove it,
and some book too.
So
man.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive right in. Soren, what's on tap for today? What are we talking about?
Well, thank you very much for the welcome. Today's topic is going to be record covers. So when you're out there crate digging, we're going to show you some stuff, what to look for, and some special stuff as well, because there are many different types of record covers out there. So I'm going to run through a few bits and pieces. We're going to talk a bit about cover artists as well, and show a few examples of some of the album covers that some of the famous artists have done, and some of them you might not even know that the same person did 2 or 3 different record covers.
Cool.
I'm not sure where to start, actually.
Let me start with this real quick. Let me say this:
Yeah.
like, if you guys are listening to this and not watching it, this season's going to be more visual experience than an audio. However, if you just want to listen, in the link in the description, there will be a link to where you can see. We'll do screenshots. We'll have some pictures and stuff, so you can see exactly what we're talking about. And with that,
sure.
let's do it.
We'll make sure to mention also the titles and the records that we're showing here. So good point, Phil. One album I came across the other day is actually an album I had already, but this was a different version, a different pressing. So and I noticed there are so many different things, very different things to look at. Depending on if you have one or the other copy. It's this one. It's One of These Nights by the Eagles. And this album was released in 1975. And this is the first one here is a UK pressing. And the second one, this is the one I had before. This is made in Israel, of all places, 1975 as well. And from a distance, they look pretty much the same. You can see there are maybe a few differences here in the coloration and the saturation of the colors, but more or less it's the same album. You'll recognize it straight away. But when you look at it a bit more closely, you'll see a lot of differences. To start with, the Israeli cover here is just a flat, normal record cover. But the UK one, and this also goes for the US version, if you happen to have that, or if you come across that out there, this has an embossed kind of effect. So the I don't know, bull head or whatever it is, and the wings here, there are kind of you can see if I just tilt this a bit, you'll be able to see that there has it's a kind of a 3D effect on the cover here. And another difference is that the UK version here is a top loader. So you'll pull the record out from the top and not from the side here as is most common. So, these are just kind of cover variations. And people might ask, well, what's the difference? It's the same music. Of course it is. But if you're really a collector and you want to find cool stuff, this is what you're looking for. And this one, this one made in Israel, is quite rare. I don't think it's worth a lot, but records from Israel are quite rare because they were never pressed in huge amounts and hardly ever distributed outside of Israel. So in Israel, this might be just normal pressing you'll find in every in every secondhand shop. But outside of Israel, especially in Europe and America, this is quite rare. So you'll hardly ever find Israeli pressings of records, at least not on our shores. But that was one of the first examples. They're both released on Asylum Records, by the way. So there are no differences in who released it. Let's see. I'm going to show an example here, which ticks two boxes. This is both an album pressed in a different country, but also an album with an alternate cover. So I'm going to show you this. Most people probably know this as No Prayer for the Dying by Iron Maiden. And this is I think the Dutch pressing from 90, which is the most common one. This also is a cover in US and everywhere else. So nothing special here. But if you find a Russian pressing, Iron Maiden, their albums, they weren't released in Russia, of course, only previously in the Soviet Union in the 80s. That happened in 93. But some of these, one of the albums were released with an alternate cover. So this is a Russian pressing of No Prayer for the Dying. Same music, same track list, everything, just a different cover. And this cover was actually used for the Tail Gunner single when that came out, which was the first single from the album. And another interesting fact about this one is that the metal parts, the stampers they used for pressing these albums were actually UK ones. So EMI, they bought a record company in the US, in Russia, called Gala Records, and this is actually released on Gala Records. You'll see the label here is different. It says, I don't know if you can see this, but it says Gala Records on the label, which is a black label. EMI bought this record company to release music in Russia. But in order to make sure that the pressings were at high quality and all that, they actually they shipped stampers from the UK to Russia to be used in Russia and pressed at factories there. So what you're looking at here, this Russian record here, is actually a UK pressing. If you look at it that way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
The stampers are the same. So if you compare this to a UK pressing, you'll find the same inscriptions in the dead wax. And as we talked about earlier in the last episode, these are like the DNA of the albums that show you where it was mastered, where it was pressed, and so forth, and who mastered it and all that. So if you compare the UK record with this, you'll see the same inscriptions. So it's basically a UK pressing made in Russia for a different label. I have all of the Maiden albums on Gala Records, and they just sound incredible, really. I mean, they're like UK first editions, all of them. They're really good. And they're not very expensive either. So if you find it hard to find, say, US or UK pressing of original US or UK pressings of Iron Maiden albums, go for the Russian ones. They sound great.
Cool.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When we're talking about like cover arts right now, and shipping from like the UK were Maiden with their like the former painter Derrick Riggs. So when he did those famous cover arts, when he painted them, how did they go about sending those to like different pressing plants? Because nowadays you got a PDF that you send through an email. Yeah. So do you know anything about that? How that came about?
Very good question. I think for a lot of those albums, they were printed, a lot of the sleeves in the UK, and then shipped off to wherever wherever destination, or maybe in the US and then shipped somewhere else. But I think in those days, the record company would send out huge prints copies of the original artwork with instructions on how to print the record sleeve. And I think that's why you'll find you'll find pressings from maybe, I don't know, South America or even China and all places that are not really known for producing huge amounts of vinyl, where the cover might be a bit off. It might be a bit off in the color. There might be printing faults and all such things that the American or European or UK versions of the albums do not have, because the record company have been closer to the manufacturing process and quality assurance and all that. That's a bit more difficult if a record is pressed in, I don't know, Namibia or I don't know, whatever. And sometimes these some of the smaller markets, maybe some African countries, they might have just ran a Xerox machine and then added some color to it. Some of these album covers you'll find on these pressings are absolutely, they look horrible to say the least, but they're fun because the music might sound fine. There's nothing wrong with the music, or maybe not even the pressing, but some of these they look a bit makeshift. Some of these album covers you'll find. I have another example what we're talking about here, because I also found this copy of Beach Boys called Wild Honey. I'm not really big on Beach Boys, but this one I thought was interesting because, by the looks of it, when you go digging, if you get really good at it, or when you're really experienced, you can almost feel if this is an American cover or a European cover. Do you know what I mean? The American covers are usually, at least in the old days, they are kind of sturdy. They're kind of thick cardboard covers. Some of the European ones are slightly thinner and will bend easier. But the American record covers are usually quite tough and heavier. So when you flick through with your fingers, you might even learn to feel, oh, this is an American cover. This is an original cover. We're getting nerdy here, I know, but I put my fingers on top of this one. I thought, hey, this is an American cover. So I picked it up and I was right. But it is an American cover. It's very sturdy. You'll actually see that if you look at very closely. I don't know if you can see this, but the picture here is actually glued on the cardboard here. Oh. So the wow. picture doesn't go all the way to the edge as you usually see, or maybe on the backside, continue on the backside. So this is a very thin paper glued on a sheet of cardboard here. But I turned the record over, and it said Capitol Records, which is of course the label, the American label that released Beach Boys. And I took it out, and to my surprise, it says "Made in Denmark." So I thought, this is fun, because the cover says printed in the US. It even mentions that it's printed in Scranton, PA. There was a huge record factory in Scranton that pressed a lot of US pressings. But I took it out and it said "Made in Denmark." But then I had a look at the dead wax, and I actually found the initials for Scranton factory. Oh. So this tells me that it was pressed in Denmark, absolutely, but with stampers sent over from Scranton's factory. So this is actually a US pressing. It's a US cut, just pressed in Denmark. Okay. So you might consider this a US pressing, because it's the stampers that actually decide what kind of pressing it is. Okay. Because the machine might be the same. The machine in Denmark might be the same as the one they have in Scranton, and the material, the vinyl used, might be identical as well. So the only difference is country, but in fact it's a US pressing. So these are and you'll only know this if you know where to look in the dead wax and what to look for. The Scranton, by the way, the Scranton marking is actually a triangle with, I don't think you can see this. It's a very small triangle with 3 letters IAM stamped. And this is actually not the Scranton factory's own marking. This is the industrials, this is the Machinist Union stamp, because the workers, the factory workers at Scranton were the only ones in the US that were actually in a union. So, and they were very proud of that. So on all their records they did at Scranton, they would press this triangle, the union sign, and that's the only factory that did that. So in that way, you can actually pinpoint exactly where this record was originally pressed, or at least where the stampers were made, and they were made at Scranton. So U.S. pressing made in Denmark.
Yeah.
It's
so
strange.
would you consider that an original pressing, or So even though it's pressed in Denmark, it's an original pressing.
Absolutely, because it's the stampers that actually decide.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's pressed in Holland or whether it's pressed in UK or US, it doesn't matter, because what decides are the stampers. So if the stampers are the same, it's of course it's made in Denmark. We know that, it's said, and I do believe that, because we have some good pressing plants here. But the stampers were produced in the US and shipped here. So basically, it will sound the same as a US pressing.
All right.
Cool. I have another one. And now we're moving into the fun bit here, because this is also a record that you might know. Machine Head by Deep Purple. The photograph here were actually, as far as I know, the photo was developed on a metal sheet. That's why it has a bit of a metal quality shine about it. It's not a real, paper photo. It was actually developed onto a piece of metal, and the piece of metal was actually hung on a door and then photographed. Oh. And of course, at the print shop they put this black frame around the cover here, just to frame it in. But there was a German reissue of this album, and I don't know what happened. But if you look at this, you'll actually see a bit of the door behind it, because they didn't put the black frame on it. So and it doesn't have the black frame here either. It's the same picture, but they left something out. You see here. Yeah.
So, and it's all off center too.
Yeah, off center as well. It's a good sounding copy. There's nothing wrong with that, but just there's something wrong with the cover, and it just wasn't cropped properly. So it's on a label called Hörzu, which was I think one of the kind of a magazine run label that re-released a lot of records in Germany in the 70s. So I don't know if this one is easily. I don't know if it's easy to find this one in the US, but you do come across it in Europe from time to time. So it's a fun thing. And again, I don't always buy records, to listen to it. If I already have the record, there's no point in buying it again unless there's some kind of variation or fun. And this is one of the fun ones, I think. And also, of course, it's a gatefold cover, as you know. And you will take the record out here in the middle. I actually forgot the name of what these covers are called, but you'll take the cover out here and not in at the edge here as you normally would. The name escapes me, but this cover type also has a name, of course. Let's see. We talked a bit about Iron Maiden before, and of course the artist Derrick Riggs. Just how you made a huge career drawing Eddie, and
Yeah.
he continued to draw the Eddie mascot up until 90, I think. No Prayer for the Dying was the last one he did.
Yeah, I think so.
And he did half of Brave New World. He did the Cloud on Brave New World. That was Derrick Riggs.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the last time he worked for them. But this is a standard Dutch EU pressing, I think. Or is it the British? No, it's the Dutch pressing. Of course, with the gatefold here, with the dinner set and all that, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
But the US pressing came in a single sleeve. So there is no gatefold here. And I don't know.
No, we got ripped off.
Sorry? Yeah, you feel.
I said we got ripped off.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Absolutely. This was released by Capitol Records in the US and, of course, by EMI in Europe. But I don't know the decision to leave out the gatefold cover. But you'll sometimes see these variations. And this is a first pressing, US pressing as well. There's no. It's not like a cheap reissue where they're kind of saved on paper here. This is the first release here, but it's just a single sleeve. I have many copies of Power Slave, but I got this because it's actually the only copy I have of Power Slave that is single sleeve. All the other ones are
Peace of Mind.
Oh, Peace of Mind. Sorry, yeah,
Peace
of course. I have a lot of copies of Power Slave as well, but certainly also one of my favorite records. And well, Derrick Riggs, he not only did Maiden, he did a few other things as well. He did cover for Budgie, and he's done a lot of sci-fi art for like Stratovarius, among others, a Finnish prog metal band or power metal, whatever. But he also did this for Alvin Lee, the former 10 Years After guitarist. So this is actually also a Derrick Riggs cover. Okay. And many might not know this, and you might come across this record a lot out there. I certainly see it almost all the time when I'm out digging. But I never realized it was also Derrick Riggs. So of course I had to get that just to be able to show it.
Of course.
We'll see. Oh, I've got a fun one here. This one you'll probably know. Crosby, Stills Nash, Deja Vu from 1970. One of the top albums of certainly for that year, but also in rock history. It has this is the American pressing here. Has a beautiful cover, sort of a gold embossed, textured sleeve. Again, a very heavy, sturdy sleeve, and it's kind of one of those sleeves that just never wear out. It's just so incredibly good quality. But of course, this album also needed to be released elsewhere, and I don't know what happened because it was released in. I gotta see. I hope I'm getting this correct here. It might be Hungary. I'm not sure. I apologize to any Hungarians listening if I got this incorrect. But the cover that was chosen for Deja Vu in Hungary was this.
Oh man!
Oh, I'm not even. Okay. I'm actually. It's upside down, isn't it? Oh no, it's not. I mean, look at this.
No.
I mean, how do you get from
what's going on there?
This great cover to this abomination. I mean, it's so ugly that I have no words for it. But this is what it looked like there. So I mean, if you're a Hungarian guy in the 70s traveling to the US looking for Deja Vu, you might not even find it because you probably think you're looking for something else. But it's got a paper cover. Look at this paper cover with lyrics in English and Hungarian translated. So crazy, but
wow.
Yeah, if you collect Crosby, Stills and Nash, you'll definitely need this. Another hint: if you're going looking for records, you might want to find an early pressing or first release or whatever, and you might be holding a reissue and not being able to tell if this is a reissue or not. But a thing to always look for is the barcode, because the barcode was released on was introduced on vinyl records in the late 70s. So and beginning of the early 80s in that era, and so if you have an album that was originally released in, say, 1970 or 71 or 72, that has a barcode, you'll be pretty sure that this is a repress or a reissue that you're holding. And I'm just going to show you this, The Doors, Absolutely Live. And this is also a record that you'll come across quite a lot out there, and released in 1970, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But when you turn this around, you see it has a barcode, and immediately you'll know that this is a later 80s pressing, definitely later than 79 or 80. So that's just a small hint. So if you have a Led Zeppelin album with a barcode, you're pretty sure that it's a reissue or a repress. So small hint there.
Soren, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and all that stuff that you've got there, all those little surprises and things that you can find. For a guy like me that really, I only really started thinking about collecting stuff with this show. Mike was the one that kind of got me into this thing, and I don't know half of this stuff, so it's great to kind of learn about this, and it's so much fun. And there's probably a lot more of this. Should we do a part 2 next week? That's all
I think so. Yeah,
you got Ken Kelly.
I've got a stack like this on my desk here, so I'll continue.
Cool. Let's do it.
We'll do it. And with that, all the links are in the description. Go check it out. Like I said, we'll have video. We'll have all kinds of stuff on the website.
Cool.
Yeah, and with that,
thank you so much, guys.
Later.
See you later.
Later.